we are going to talk about, kasi syempre recently the Oscars, was the nominees for the Oscar Awards has been announced. And we are wondering, we are comic book fans, we are superhero fans. Why aren't comic book or superhero stories or movies nominated as much as the other movies in the Oscars? Good day, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I am your Night of Fun, and welcome to the Cup of Geek podcast. And we are now on the Geek Talk PH Facebook page, and you're probably wondering what we are going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about, kasi syempre recently the Oscars, was the nominees for the Oscar Awards has been announced. And we are wondering, we are comic book fans, we are superhero fans. Why aren't comic book or superhero stories or movies nominated as much as the other movies in the Oscars? So yan yung pag-usapan natin tonight. But before we go to that segment of our show, let me first introduce to you my co-host for the evening. Let me begin with Blake.
Hello, everybody. It is me, Blake Salcedo, aka Aqua Blake. Of course, you can always find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and possibly in your hearts, nightmares, and whatever. Yeah, let's go talk about these movies. But before any of that, of course, we gotta round it off back to Geeky Pinoy himself, Noah, wherever he is.
Yo. Yes, what's up? So, Geeky Pinoy. So, you can catch me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, in my Facebook page. And by the way, you're watching this and listening this right now first in the Geek Talk PH page. So, aside from watching us, stay tuned as well to those other Geek Talk PH content creators that are really doing a great job as far as sobrang na-enjoy ko rin yung mga shows nila. So try to check them out. And this one will be as well in our YouTube and Spotify and of course in Apple Podcasts. So yeah, Gigi Pinoy, I'll give this back to Papa Ray.
Maraming salamat. Papa Noah. Okay, let me also remind everyone, no. So since you're watching this at the TikTok PH page, we have a block screening on the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and that will be on February 15 at the SM North EDSA Cinema 1. So if you are interested to join us at that event, please make sure to follow the page. Check out the details. I think it's pinned on the page naman, so find the details there, and hopefully we can see everyone sa block screening. Okay, since we're having fun watching all of these movies, we're looking forward to the superhero movies this year. Nagtataka lang ako. There's this article kasi recently, around a few days ago, of Steven Spielberg. If you know Steven Spielberg, diba? One of the best directors that we know of.
Kapit-bahay namin yan.
Kapit-bahay.
Nangingi ng ulam namin yan minsan.
Minsan, yun lang.
Minsan lang.
Kasi busy siya sa pag-shoot ng film, so wala siyang time magluto. Diba? So,
okay lang naman sa akin.
So, recently, there's this article na Steven Spielberg is saying, kung naalala niyo pa, The Dark Knight, sinasabi niya, it should have been the first blockbuster nominated film, nominated as Best Picture sa Oscars. So, there's this question, being comic book superhero fans like us, no? Bakit nga ba wala sa Oscars or hindi masyadong recognized sa Oscars ang superhero movies? So, yun yung pag-usapan natin tonight, and hopefully you are excited to talk about some of the movies rin na lobas before na should have been in the running for diba? For a kahit a nomination man lang. And then let's talk about as well, what would it take for a superhero movie to be nominated in the Academy Awards? Okay. So, without further ado, let me first ask this question. Familiar ba kayo muna? baka nagtatopic tayo. Familiar ba kayo muna? Blake and Noah sa Oscars. Blake, baka you might being the film guy sa grupo na to. Can you just quickly educate us on the Oscar Awards?
Enlighten
Basically,
us.
the Oscars are the pinnacle of film academy awarding for exemplary work in filmmaking and movies every year, which may or may not be rigged at times, but it depends on how much support a nominee would get. But either way, of course, a lot of these films that are being generated and nominated in the Oscars are always in a prestigious form that would be considered cut above the rest. But at the same time, would also cause controversy because some nominations are not as worthy as other nominees. But we may get to that later or another video. But yeah, that's basically the basic rundown of the Oscars for you. Just award show for movies.
Yep. So, question siguro, what would it take for a movie to be nominated sa isang Academy Awards? I read in an article na the way to be nominated sa Oscars is, number one, you have to kumbaga, be distributed as a film. Second, I think you have to have the votes of a group of people. So medyo it's an electoral process who are called ano nga to? The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So the people who are members of the AMPAS should be able to vote for you to be nominated sa Oscar Awards. So it's more of siguro if napaka siguro subjective in a sense
Subjective.
because you are asking people but people who are with film, syempre, film expertise, film backgrounds, to nominate the best film, di ba? Although it may come as subjective. Pero what, in recent times kasi, we have a lot of superhero films, but we only have a few that get into the Oscars. So what would it take for a movie to be in the Oscars? Noah, what do you think ang ang talagang magiging parang magiging qualification for a movie to be Oscar worthy?
Kasi kung basing dun sa sinabi mo, what are the qualifications? So una, yung sa first category being distributed as a film, check na sila dyan. For sure naman. So meaning, yung second lang talaga sila yung second lang yung sunod nilang problema. If they will be nominated by that fair people or for sure hindi kasali si Illuminati doon dahil hindi sila agad na nominate. Pero kumbaga, yun nga, kailangan makuha nila yung heart and attention nung group of people na yun in order for them to get nominated. And tingin ko, yun na yung second thing na kailangan. Kasi, yun nga, hindi naman siya based on popularity. It's not based on income, if it's a blockbuster, a flop or not. Hindi yun yung basis eh. Even if it's kahit pa sobrang sikat ng mga artista na ilagay mo dyan, it's not enough. Kumbaga, ano ba yung attention? Ano ba yung factor para mapansin ka? It's not, I think it's in a really different multiverse, sabi ka. Pero I would be honest, unlike Blake, I don't have much idea of how Oscar awards go or how they run it. I know it's annually. I know, it's of course film, and so far I'm learning a lot as well from you guys. There are a lot of course worthy na talagang panoorin. Na yun nga, like what you guys said. I think last few days lang. It's like palette cleanser if you watch some of the films. Kasi nga, especially if you're watching too much action, too much comic book, it's a great reset. Pero of course, we would love to have what we love to be in the Oscars, and hopefully, tingnan natin.
So,
and I would like to know more about it.
So, sige, bilang we want to understand, no, bakit why aren't superhero movies really recognized in the Oscars? Let's just talk about The Dark Knight muna, which sinasabi ni Steven Spielberg na it should have been nominated as one of the films sa Best Picture. So The Dark Knight is directed by Christopher Nolan. Nandun si Christian Bale as the Batman, and syempre R.I.P. Heath Ledger as the Joker. And if you can remember, I think I can now say, siguro after watching The Dark Knight and after watching Matt Reeves' Batman, I can still say The Dark Knight is still my number one Batman movie of all time. Hanggang ngayon. So I guess the Batman is a good second. Pero why is it, or sa tingin nyo, ano yung charm, what makes The Dark Knight a good film? Let's go, Blake, Noah, and then sasabihin ko rin yung commentary ko rin dyan.
I was thinking about this with why the Dark Knight I think is to be considered like best picture. For one thing, it can stand on its own. You don't have to watch You don't have to watch Batman Begins to appreciate Dark Knight, because you can already tell the basics of the story within it. That it's a very thought-provoking piece about law and order versus chaos and destruction, like how people are going to do or willing to do just in the name of setting things right and for justice. And like, yeah, the limitations of man's morality are very thought-provoking pieces that are very considerable to be made a nomination for the Oscars. And because with The Dark Knight, and I was thinking about this too, if you take out the element of Batman, you take out the element of that it's based on a comic book, you'll still have a story where it is about law enforcement officers and possibly, just some guy trying to do the right thing, trying to stop a terrorist from destroying the very fabric of the city that they are trying to protect. And then if you just add Batman there, it's still basically the same story. Add to the fact that this film is also technically an allegory of post 9/11 ideology, or rather awareness and suspicions of the world, post the 9/11 attacks. You have so many things like how America would handle terrorism, how there's the surveillance to be, finding these terrorists, and like, with the Patriot Act. There's so many things that the Dark Knight applies that can be I would say very applicable to real world scenarios that a lot of people can relate to in different forms of target audiences, compared to, for example, let's say a Marvel movie where it's a bit more popcorn flick than thought-provoking piece. And I think that's one of the biggest cases that the Dark Knight has to be considered, sana lang, pero to be considered a Best Picture nomination, or Best Picture nominee rather.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with that. No? So because if you go through all of the Oscar nominees in the past few years, no, the movies there really made sure that they have a theme that really parang encompasses the human condition, and the Dark Knight actually tells us a significant part of the human condition, where we are left with really finding the right decision, making sure that there are options for everyone to to choose on, 'di ba? So parang, and then here comes the Joker and making sure na hindi nabibigay yung yung freedom na yon sa mga tao. And siguro, yeah, one of that is really the how the story encompasses what the audience really just wants, what the audience want to see, in terms of being it a fantastical movie with all the special effects, but more on how it tells the story of the human condition. Pero isa pang gusto kong pag-usapan siguro with The Dark Knight is Noah, Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, the acting of the cast, diba? What can you say about them?
Ako actually, unahin ko muna si Christian Bale. Definitely yung struggles na mga pinakita niya, it was really seen in his acting. Yung struggles na talaga pinagdaanan ni Batman before he became Batman. It was really there. Not just with, of course, alam naman ng lahat yung origins ni Batman. His parents died. He inherited all the riches. He trained. Pero kumbaga, hindi mo masasabing yan alam na natin yan or hindi, yan na naman yan eh. But the way Christian Bale really portrayed Bruce Wayne and Batman. Parang sinasabi natin, magaling siyang Bruce Wayne, magaling din siyang Batman. Para sa akin, he's the lagi yung pinaglalabanan. Even with Spider-Man, di ba? Sino ba magaling na Peter Parker? Sino magaling na Spider-Man? But Christian Bale as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. Ako, no bias, but he nailed the two characters, being Batman and being Bruce Wayne. Then, syempre, of course, Heath Ledger, legend nga.
Legend.
Actually, this is the one that really parang cemented his name na period Joker na yan, Joker. Kumbaga, yes, ang dami naman, totoo naman, Joker is not an easy character to play. So may mga nag-fail na rin dyan. Well, not gonna name names, pero there are a lot of people who really kumbaga, their name really boomed. Si Mark Hamill, di ba? As Batman sa animated series. It was really good, but when Heath Ledger did the Joker, that's the first time I got goosebumps on clowns. So wala akong takot sa mga clowns at payaso, but ayoko makasalubong ang Joker na Heath Ledger sa kanto namin. hindi ako papayag. And the first time ko baka manakbo ko talaga as in. It was his acting was on point in a way na yung mental state of mind mo tatamaan niya. Hindi lang yung suspense, hindi lang yung action. Hindi lang dahil na may mga punchline siya, dahil Joker siya. Pero every word na ginamit ni Heath Ledger doon and how he delivered it, yun nga, it cemented him. And dapat, yun nga talaga, why not? Why not Dark Knight being nominated? Why not?
And siguro, no, I think the Heath Ledger's Joker has become really iconic rin na on Halloween, ganung costume yung sinusuot, ganung even the recent, diba, the recent Jokers, so the recent people who play Jokers really refer to Heath Ledger's Joker as a baseline kung how to really play the character. And also we'll talk about some of the diba, Joaquin Phoenix, for example, who also won an Academy Award for his role as the Joker. We'll talk about that later. Pero Heath Ledger really stamped his name on that character, and the Jokers moving forward were really kumbaga really need to play a level higher with what Heath Ledger benchmark talaga siya. And sige, so you have the theme, you have the actors playing well in the movie. Syempre, we have to also recognize The Dark Knight also received nominations and awards na not necessarily minor, pero in terms of technicality of the film. But also, si Heath Ledger won the Best Supporting Actor in the kailan ba 2008 na Academy Awards. So, rightfully so, because his performance is good. But in terms of technical awards na naman, The Dark Knight also won the Best Achievement in Sound Editing. So, magaling yung pagkakaayos kung ano maririnig mo na ng audio, di ba? It was also nominated for Best Achievement in Cinematography. So, camera work was also really good. And then Best Achievement in Film Editing. So, how the frames were actually kumbaga cut into how the story is told, they were also nominated with that. So, technically, The Dark Knight is also a good film. Okay. Ito ang trivia that I would want you to know. During this time kasi, the Best Picture nominees are only 5. So there were only 5 films nominated talaga. And sinasabi nila, The Dark Knight is 6 in line. Just nandun lang sa dulo. And what happened? And what happened afterward, isa pala to sa mga naging catalyst why we now have 10 nominees for Best Picture. So that's why if you look at the nominees right now, ang daming nominees for Best Picture, 10 for this year. So The Dark Knight was actually one of the catalysts kung bakit they push for additional nominees sa Oscar Awards. So yeah, so The Dark Knight, yes, we agree na it should have been sana lang in the past kung meron lang 10 nominees could have been there as one of the nominees for Best Picture. Unfortunately, hindi lang maganda yung timing, but we agree that The Dark Knight is really a good film. In the last 2 decades, no, 2000s, 2010s, there have been a lot of nominations then for Marvel and DC films. Pero normally kung if I look at the history, ang nakikita ko lang is best achievement in makeup, best achievement in visual effects. Usually ganun lang.
Mm.
Not really on the
Mm.
story, not really on the acting. Ang pinaka
Yeah.
ang pinakamalaki so far is Black Panther. Nung buhay pa si Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther actually got, for the first time, a superhero film got a nomination on the Oscar Awards. What can you say? Bakit nga ba nakapasok si Black Panther? Sa tingin nyo, bakit siya nakapasok sa Oscar Awards?
Ako, yung siguro ang mababaw na take ko dyan, maybe mababaw to first, is this is I think, isa siyang iconic at sobrang acclaimed na movie as a representation for the Black community and the African heritage and culture. So in a way na para maging mainstream siya, then magkaroon ng magandang representation, it's not just more on representation, but it gave a lot of Black American or African descent, African peeps talaga, na magkaroon sila ng part na yes, we're being represented. Actually, hindi lang sa US but even in Africa, it was really been appreciated. And the way Chadwick Boseman, like kasi mostly pag 'di ba ang mga nauna namang superhero movies, wala naman talagang straight na black cast talaga. It's either part of a team, sidekick, or sometimes wala talaga sa mga superhero movies. But how it was shown before is not just more of him being king of Wakanda, but of course the culture, how they're living, lahat nandun eh. And even the music, lahat, sobrang galing ni Ryan Coogler, tama diba? Yung director nun. He really nailed the representation without being too much parang begging for attention. Alam mo yun, it speaks for itself. It doesn't ask for, yes, we've been, kasi minsan may mga movies, talagang hina-highlight pa nila yung dapat ito mapansin, dapat ito. But the movie itself already presented what you should love about it. And hindi siya yung, sabi nga, woke type ng racial representation. It was culturally and artistically done very well para sa akin. It's really deserving to be there. RIP din.
RIP din Chadwick Boseman, Blake.
Well, for me, I think because Noah's already said a lot of it already that I was gonna say, but I think for me, I think I'll just add nah. No. I think I'll add nah, because if you compare the story and the themes within Black Panther compared to most other Marvel movies, this one really has a very tangible and grounded story with the themes that it's talking about. You're talking about colonization. You're talking about treatment of African Americans in America and compared to the rest of the world. So many different themes and topics that wouldn't necessarily be that really general, or rather commonplace for other superhero movies. Like, you could argue, like, yes, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier was a spy thriller to a certain extent, but with Black Panther, it really put all these themes and stories and ideas at the forefront, and not just as a small backdrop for a large popcorn caper. It really put all these themes as a great importance that complements the story, which I think that's probably its biggest highlight for me. That's why I think that's the reason why I think that the film is regarded as to be one of the best superhero films
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, I would agree with you, no. That's the themes that they were using were really kumbaga it gave you a platform that you can enjoy being it a spectacular show. At the same time letting you know that the issues on colonization or basically a modern day version of colonization is there, and how are we treating this issue in our society. So andun yung tema ng movie, andun yung core yung laman nung movie na yon. You also have great acting, syempre, from Chadwick Boseman, from Angela Bassett, and all the rest of the cast. It was also recognized technically. So you have best achievement in music, the sound pala, 'di ba? Yung music na ginamit. Best
True.
achievement in costume design. Ako sobrang
Syempre.
natuwa ako sa costumes nila,
Mm.
syempre, 'di ba? Iba-ibang tribes, iba-ibang ng Wakanda are kumbaga ang ganda ng pagkaka-differentiate ng costumes nila. And then best achievement in production design. So syempre you have to build the whole Wakanda, 'di ba? So how do you imagine a city,
Yeah,
a
definitely.
nation that's kumbaga separate, totally separate from the rest of the world. So how do you design that in production? So
Mm.
they all won in the 2019 Oscars. And so pero this is just for some of the best parts of the superhero films. Now we move forward to this year's Oscar awards. This year
Mm.
we actually have two superhero movies nominated sa Oscars. We have the Batman, which is nominated for
Mm.
best sound, best makeup and hairstyling, and best visual effects. Then you also have, I guess,
Mm.
in the history of superhero movies, the most number of nominations ever is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So yung sequel ng Black Panther. We have the nomination for best supporting actress, best original song, best makeup and hairstyling, and best costume design. So, ang dami. And then we have two just this year, diba? So, sa tingin nyo, is the superhero genre moving towards a certain type of entertainment na we are not just an action film. We have messages to tell.
Actually, that's something that that recently phase for MCU was not the best phase, 'di ba? Totoo naman. A lot of people would admit that, especially for MCU fans or Marvel fans. We can say that Phase 4 was not the best, but it has one of the best movies, which is, of course, we had Spider-Man, and then we had Black Panther. Pero kumbaga, hopefully MCU can get back to their rhythm para dun sa sa quality, kasi yun ang medyo nawala eh. Movies of course were a bit compromised because of a lot of projects na kailangan nilang pagsiksikin sa isang taon. And of course, if quality is being compromised, definitely chances of getting nominated to any awards will be compromised as well. And dun lang naman yan sa MCU or sa Marvel. While Warner Brothers have their own issues then. So, it just so happened that Reeves did a great job with Batman without having too much hands with him. Talagang siya lang talaga yung trumabaho nun. And even Warner Brothers executives are honest to say na hindi nila masyadong pinakilamanan yung Batman Robert Pattinson. And I think that works. Hopefully, if Warner Brothers will get back to their feet as well, if James Gunn and Peter Safran would have a better universe to follow, since sabihin naman natin, magaling naman talaga storyteller din si James Gunn. Hopefully, it will work. Kasi nga, nagiging lang eh, parang for a lot of people, it's more on entertainment. They don't see it as an art. They don't see it as a storytelling. Yes, it's money generating. It's sabi nga ng iba, I'm not sure who's that director na sinabi niya, superhero movies are not movies. So it's really
Si
a
ano
sampal
ata,
talaga sa mukha.
si
Ah,
Tarantino ba yan?
Oo, parang
Si Quentin
I don't
Tarantino ba yan?
I'm not sure. Di ko maalala eh. Basta
Diba,
sinabi niya talaga yun.
ang daming
Oo.
ang daming ingay na ginawa ng ibang may directors. I think si Jennifer Lopez also commented
Oo.
on these films, diba? So
Diba? Kumbaga, they, of course, sabi nga natin, it's subjective. That's their own take. Especially those are people who are working on films talaga. They have the right to say something. But of course, people would also react to it. Pero, kumbaga, um, since they have all the money in the world to make a good film,
mm,
hopefully, they, kasi talaga namang, ang goal talaga ng isang movie is to generate income. Yan talaga yung number one nila eh. Making sure all production and actresses are paid enough para din makagawa ng installment. Kasi especially a superhero movie, they're expecting installments to do. Kaya, let's see. So exciting, and so hopefully then, aside from Warner Brothers and aside from or I mean DC and Marvel, because there are a lot of comic books that are really
yeah.
good. Alam niyo naman 'yan. And I think unti-unti yan, they'll have their time to shine.
Siguro
And hopefully,
just to follow through on your comment na Noah na the movies are made to to make income. So basically kasi these are businesses din naman, 'di ba? So kailangan kumita nila para syempre they can they have tawag diyan mga investors to make happy, they have employees to
'di
make
ba?
happy. But at the same time, ang objective rin ng film is to entertain. So how do you entertain? You
Mm-mm.
have the spectacular, you have the CGI, you have the action. And then for some, not everyone probably, the entertainment comes in the form of stories or deep
Storytelling.
thoughts sa
Mm-mm.
sa isang movie. And in most cases siguro what or hindi naman in most cases, pero what we've been having in the superhero genre is just the spectacular and not much on the deep storytelling that tama ba, Blake? Baka may comment ka, go.
I got thoughts on this.
Yeah,
'Cause
go.
I know, because there's also, I mean, of course, huh? 'Cause this is yes, sorry, like with all the, the basically popcorn flicks. Mostly it's just the MCU films, and they always tend to get nominated for visual effects. But I will say though, Marvel has made pretty good on two Oscar moments that for some reason the MCU has not really located. Case in point, the fact that they're not MCU, but they are Marvel properties. For one thing, we
Mm.
have a movie that was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which just so happens to be a Marvel film, aka Logan. Logan
Yep.
was
Mm.
Yes.
nominated
Oo.
for that Oscar, and with the way that they handled the story of that, yeah, you can obviously see why that that film was nominated for an Oscar, because you can take away the whole Wolverine mutants thing, and it's still a pretty decent drama about moving on from you know pains of your past and trying to make a better future. All these sorts of different things, and then um, another thing is And then another thing, is this another movie that got nominated, actually, and won at the Oscars, was for Best Animated Film. And
Yep.
this was after
Mm.
breaking the
Mm.
streak of Disney produced films winning Best
Correct.
Animated Film at the Oscars. And this was by far the best Spider-Man film. I'm not gonna argue with anyone. This is the best Spider-Man film ever.
Spider-Man
Spider-Man Into
Into
the
the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse, because it had, yeah, it's a good popcorn flick. It had great action. It was very entertaining, but at its core is a very emotionally invested,
True.
heartwarming story about just basically what you
Goosebumps
said,
pa rin ako
being
dun.
ready to face, like
Yes.
being who you are. So many things that to this day people would share on Facebook. That scene of him, Miles taking his first swing as Spider-Man, especially with the scene where they're doing that, and below they have the script of it.
Mm.
There's not a day or a week that goes by that I do not see someone not share that. That's how much. That's how great that story is. And comparing that to MCU films, I have never seen much um, of a cultural impact in that regard with any other MCU film. Because that one, you can just watch that scene alone and you'll just feel inspired. And that obviously is big Oscar radar. So it's like, oh, this is good for the family and kids. All right, let's go. That's actually pretty good. So yeah, I think that's one thing that the MCU should take notes of is just trying not to focus too much on popcorn style blockbuster, but just really dive into the story first and foremost, and not rely on the formula on in the long run. Even though it works, but if you want that Oscar,
Yeah, there's
make R
this,
rated.
there's there's this. So what we're saying right now is there should be a balance between those popcorn entertainment and the core of the movie or the story. You have films like The Dark Knight, yeah, Black Panther actually getting both cycles, both scales of the both tips of the scales balanced out. Then you also have the films like Joker, for example, which is
Mm.
basically a villain or a superhero or comic book story, but focuses on the villain, but actually looks into the story more, di ba? So um
Mm.
this is my question now. Before, I think this will be my last three questions. You have these types of movies, and I think it Marvel and DC can actually do it. Um, Look at Avatar: The Way of Water, for example. It gets nominated for Best Picture. It's a spectacular film. You have a lot of CGI. You have a lot of it's a popcorn
Visual
flick.
effect.
The visual effects are
Sobra.
really good. You have a really good core in terms of story, and then I can imagine that type of format in a Avengers movie. Will that work, or what do you think?
For
Well,
me, tingin ko sa akin, mag-work, but it will take a lot of sit down and really talk a lot. Kasi alam naman natin, Avatar 1 and 2, grabe yung gap nila eh.
Mm.
Sobrang tagal. So, you can't blame as far as with storytelling, script writing, visual effects, lahat talaga yan. Years. I'm not exactly sure. More than 10 ba? Almost 10 years bago nasundan si Avatar. But with Avengers, it may work, but right now, kasi sabihin na natin, aminin natin, it will be hard to bring back. It will work if we still have the main core. To be honest, ito akin lang to. If we still have the main core of the Avengers and the actors and actresses who played it. Kasi we cannot rely pa talaga with, unless you're a comic book fan or a comic reader, you would go for it eh. The new sets of Avengers, pwede mong i-accept yan eh. But in the totality of, sabihin na natin, MCU fans, hindi yun kagad for them, it will not be easy to embrace. But I think storytelling-wise, I'm not sure paano nila ipapasok yan. But it can be. It can be
Mhm.
possible, but sobrang tagal niyan. Hindi pwede yung sabihin na, phase 6, sige, try natin. Hindi pwede. And actors and actresses are
Parang,
getting
oo.
old.
Parang you have to really think it out ng mas
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time to be able to execute a level that's similar to Avatar, no?
Kasi
And
unlike Avatar, you don't see the physical features of the actors and actresses. They're
mm,
still covered with CGI. But they were able to give the emotions of the characters. Pero biro mo, even that's an alien. Pero alam mo kung malungkot siya or hindi. Alam mo if they're really into too much pain or not.
hmm,
So, how in the hell would you be able to portray that? It really takes a lot of
yeah.
depth talaga, and very wise storytelling coming from Cameron. And let's see how it will work. It can be. It's not impossible, but
Siguro,
it's
sige,
ano,
I'll give
time.
another case just to follow through on that question. No?
Mm.
So, Avatar is a high budget movie. So,
Mhm.
medyo mataas yung, yung entertainment value niya in terms of CGI, in terms of special effects. Comparing it now to Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. A much smaller film, pero it looks, for me, you have a character who's really good into martial arts, and then she goes off and saves the world, which is kinda a comic book trope, diba?
True,
So
true. Mhm.
it doesn't need to have, para sa akin, it doesn't need to have a big budget film to be Oscar worthy. Again, Blake, your
Totoo
comment.
yan. Totoo yan. Totoo
Honestly,
yan.
for me, like the whole notion of like if you're film and to anyone who's listening or watching this, if you're a film major or a filmmaker, I'm just gonna say this: it doesn't matter how big of a budget you have. It what matters is what you do with that budget and what you make out of it. If you're
Mhm.
gonna focus all your budget on something to make it look flashy and nice, yet you don't put enough effort into the story, the drama, the acting, the performances, and everything else, then it was just a big waste of time. You're just making a popcorn flick that looks nice but has a really bad story. And honestly, um, yeah, going back with everything everywhere all at once, they had a limited budget, and they were able to work with that budget with whatever they could. Even the fact that the people who were working on the VFX for it were just like two people doing it themselves. That's commitment. And honestly, yeah, again, the story of it is very telling. It's very heartwarming. Everyone can relate to it, especially people who are Asian, because we got that generational trauma. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, honestly, it always just boils down to how you tell your story, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing else you got to do. You just got to
Yeah.
worry about how you're going to tell the story. If you're worried about the budget, don't worry about the budget. Worry about how you're going to do the story with that budget or no budget at all.
Yeah. So I guess we all agree that Marvel and DC can actually deliver. Probably make sure that they can probably deliver every year if only they focus on those things. But then again, the Oscars is still um rely
Pretty
on
white.
the appeal of the movies to the members. So I'm not sure why the members are, hopefully the members are getting younger. So that's why there's more superhero movies now that are nominated. We have two this year. So, but hopefully we are going to see more in the next couple of years. We're looking for the big DC reboot, and James Gunn, you only have until, by the time of this recording, you only have until tomorrow to announce. You committed to
Few
announce in the first
hours.
the few hours.
Few hours.
uh, and then you have Phase 5 in Marvel that we are also looking forward to, diba? So yeah, it's possible for superheroes to take home the Oscars. It's possible
Yeah.
for superhero stories to take home the Oscars. We just need that one or two or three stories delivered up there, and for the members of the academy to notice it. So I guess that's the topic for tonight. Hope you guys enjoy the topic. Sobrang napaka-interesting yung nung topic rin, kasi na we're all comic book fans, pero it's not really
Mhm.
getting recognition in the past couple of years in terms of the awards bodies. But right now, I think we are looking at an increase in interest in this type of genre. So before we end, syempre, any last words, Noah, Blake, before we end the show?
Yeah, just
Hmm.
continue watching us here on Geek Talk PH page, and if you would like to hear us as well, kung audio lang, you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Podcast, and you can watch us as well on our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for all who are following. Yo, Blake.
And of course, guys, always thank you for supporting us and the Geek Talk PH community. Please remember, we also got that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania screening coming up soon, so be sure to buy your tickets as soon as possible because Kang is here. Do it. Do it now. Anyways, yep. So, what else? Yeah, Dolly should have been nominated for an
Yeah,
Oscar.
correct. Also, that
I'm
one.
sorry, Angela Bassett. The Filipinos need a win.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
Let's
need a
go.
win.
All right. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Noah. I am Ray nga pala. So, yep. And I'm your Night of Fun. Thank you for watching us. This has been your Cup of Geek. Bye.